Hi there, I'm Hawk Koch, and I want to welcome you to Behind the Silver Screen. Today, I'm honored to speak with a wonderful actress, director, singer, poet, mother, wife, and because I've met her many times at the Gray Quill Society, I know she's an unbelievable human being, Helen Richman. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you for those lovely words, and oh, do we welcome your presence at the Gray Quill Society.
Oh, well, thank you very
Yes,
much.
we do.
There's a lot that you've experienced in your life, and I'm going to go I'm going to go to the beginning. Tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Albany, New York, at the Albany Hospital in Albany, New York.
And your parents were?
My parents were Sam and Jean Landis. They were wonderful parents. My mother was a mother and housewife, except that before she got married, she was working as a legal secretary. And after she finished high school in New York City. My father first went to Albany to run a driving school that morphed into a camera store, and then that morphed into a film developing plant, which is what he did for the rest of his life. And we were all very happy that my father was in the film business because we had hypo available in order to put our little pictures in our sun pictures that we made, and they made them permanent. And we were the only ones on the block that could do sun pictures because we had hypo from my father's developing plant.
I don't know what hypo is.
It makes the negative permanent, so that you have a permanent picture.
Now, was he involved with Eastman? Because Rochester wasn't that
He
far
had
away.
many trips from Albany into Rochester and was connected with was it Eastman?
Yeah, Eastman Kodak.
Eastman Kodak,
yeah.
Yes,
George Eastman.
Yeah.
Right around that. Now, he was a driving instructor in the 1920s, 10s?
Yes, 1920s.
He had to teach people how to drive. That's a hard thing to do. I don't know that I even know how to drive.
What he said was, remember when you're behind the wheel, it's like you have a gun in your hand.
Wow.
So, yeah.
He was right.
Yeah, he was right.
Be very careful.
Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings?
My brother, unfortunately, about a few months ago, passed away. He was 1 year and 3 months older than me. His name was Alfred Landis. And I loved him very much. And Alfred went into the business with my father. He was a beautiful person who had 2 sons of his own and married a beautiful Carol, my wonderful sister-in-law. And she had 3 children, so they raised 5 kids.
Wow. All in Albany?
Yes, in Albany, and until finally when all those kids went away, then they moved to New York City.
Now, I looked at your resume because I can't remember all of these things, but it says you enjoy acting, swimming, bowling, ping pong, cycling, golf, piano, and cooking. That's a lot of things.
Yes, but I had a long life.
What was the first thing that you learned or knew that you had a passion for?
I wanted to be an actress. I used to sit out on the front porch and I used to sing, "Someday my prince will come," and I would hope that somebody would discover me.
Did you see plays or movies? I know it was before television. So what was it that...
Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple. So you went to the movies with your mom and dad or your
Yeah,
brother?
with my mom and dad at that point, sure.
Did you want to dance like Shirley Temple?
I did. I took tap dancing lessons. I was a tap dancer.
And from the very beginning, you wanted to be an actress.
Yes, I did. But the tap dancing was very big in my life. And it was during the World War II that I was tap dancing. And we would, my tap dancing class and I would go to war plants to help raise money.
For bonds.
Yes. And in fact, we danced on the Capitol steps of Albany, New York for a bond rally. You know, any bonds today, the bonds of freedom is what I'm selling, any bonds today. That's one of the World War II songs.
Now, you were in your tweens and your teens during World War II.
I was.
How did it affect your parents and you and your brother? What What discussions, because I think you're Jewish,
I am.
and there was an awful lot of anti-Semitism in America, not just in Germany. How did that affect you when you went to school? Were there many Jews in your school?
You know, Hawk, I often think now, how could I have been a beautiful, jitterbugging little teenager and not know what was happening over there in Europe? And I didn't know anything about it, and it kind of haunts me because I think so much about the Holocaust that it's like I had some unknown blood relations there that I don't even know about.
But your parents didn't talk about
No,
it?
no, they didn't know what was going on.
Did they inform you about there was a war going on and why it was going on?
Well, there were a lot of things lacking that you could. I couldn't get silk stockings anymore because, and a lot of people were in the black market and selling things that they shouldn't. And my father couldn't get any film, and his business went like that because he was in the film business. And so I knew there was a war going on. But I did not experience anti-Semitism. And yes, there were a lot of Jewish people on my block, which was, by the way, called my place where I grew up, Hollywood Avenue.
Well, now, part of, as I said, your resume was singing. Did you learn World War I songs then?
I did learn World War I songs because when I would visit my grandparents with my mom and my dad, my grandparents only spoke Yiddish. And so they would be having conversations, and I went into the living room and I just went through all these old records. And the records were World War I songs.
Do you have one particular that was your
Yes,
favorite?
I can sing for you. What are you going to do for Uncle Sammy? What are you going to do to help the boys? If you need to stay at home while they're fighting all the foam, the least that you can do is buy a Liberty Bond or two. If you're going to be a sympathetic miser, the kind that only lends a lot of noise, you're no better than the one who loves the Kaiser. So what are you going to do to help the boys?
That was fantastic. I have to tell you. You are just an amazing lady. In elementary school, or was it high school, did they have a theater arts department? Did you get to be in plays? And can you remember what your favorite character or play was in high school?
I do know that we did the play Pride and Prejudice, and I was in it, and I don't
You were Pride or Prejudice?
Oh, I never was prejudiced. Pride a little bit, yes. And I was in the choir, and but I was always jealous of the Clorinda Van Dusen. She had a beautiful soprano voice, and then she could sing the Hallelujah chorus, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, and I could never get up there, so I just was in the chorus, not a big star or anything.
Did you have a favorite show that you had? I mean, I know it was Shirley Temple as far as movies go, but did you have a favorite play? Did you know you wanted to be in movies, or did you see a play when you were a little girl and say, "Oh, I want to be up on that stage"?
When my parents took me to New York City, and I saw Judith Anderson in Medea, all my life I wanted to be a Medea.
Well, wow. I mean, how old were you? I mean, seeing Medea is not exactly
I know. I was
something
by
for
that
8-year-olds.
time I was about 10.
Wow.
Yes, or 11. And and it was like the first Broadway play I ever saw. She was magnificent, and I thought, one day I can do that. And then, so all my life, I actually was doing scenes in acting class from Medea quite a lot. Yes. Oh, it was Robinson Jeffers' version of Medea, which is a poem, a beautiful version of Medea. I don't love the old Greek plays. I don't love doing them, but this was not that at all. This was a beautiful version of Medea that I worked on through the years.
How did your parents react to, did they encourage all this acting? Were they saying, well, you could also be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah, I suppose they would have liked that also. No, well, I think my mom was more enthusiastic about it than my mom used to come to every summer stock company that I was ever in and visit, and sometimes she ended up working in the box office there. But she would come. My dad was enthusiastic enough to drive me there to summer stock companies and to pay for me to be an apprentice when I first started. I was an apprentice in Fishkill, New York, and an apprentice in Brattleboro, Vermont. And that
Now,
was paid for by
is
my
this
dad.
before you went to Ithaca College, or
During,
during
yes,
Ithaca?
because
You were majoring in theater arts.
in Ithaca College,
Yes.
yes, I had got my BFA in theater arts. Yes, I did.
Now, at Ithaca, were you doing plays or only in summer stock?
Oh no, I did plays.
Did you have a favorite at Ithaca?
Oh yes, I was Desdemona in Othello, and it proved very advantageous for me when later on I auditioned in New York City for an off-Broadway production, and that's why I got the part. And I did play Desdemona at the Cherry Lane Theater in New York.
Very cool. Can you remember a line that Desdemona? Is there anything? Uh-oh, I'm asking you a hard one now. Is there a moment in Desdemona that in Othello, when you go, oh man, did I love doing this?
Oh no, but I'll improvise. Oh, good my lord. Do not be envious. I did nothing wrong. Oh my God, the whole idea of blaming somebody for something that they're not guilty of can just tear your heart out.
Were you ever nervous on the stage, or was it?
Well, in the beginning, I was very, very nervous when I was 16 and an apprentice, and the producer came to me and said, "Oh, there's a part for a 16-year-old in this play called My Dear Children, and we want you to play the part." And I had not, acted really on stage before. I was very nervous, and also this young character had to smoke, and I forced myself walking back and forth, pacing the room that I was staying in, and coughing and trying to smoke because I was going to smoke on stage, and that's how I started to smoke. But yes, I was for the first two and the next season as an apprentice, and when I played Corliss Archer as a 16-year-old in Kiss and Tell, I was also nervous. In fact, I heard the star, Lois Wilson, in her dressing room talking about me. And she said, "I don't know, she just doesn't connect with me. I mean, it's like she's not even talking to me." And it's true. And I knew what she was talking about, but I was so nervous. All I could think about was my next line.
When were you able to get rid of that nervousness and just be the character?
The next summer after I was apprenticing, I got hired in a non-equity company in Malden Bridge, New York, and I started to play leads in every one of the plays. And at that point, I was so comfortable on stage. That was a beautiful time for me because I was young and I was pretty good, and I got $10 a week, first pay I ever got for acting, and it was wonderful. And that lasted all through a lot of different summer stock companies that I was in, until strangely after I got married. I don't know what it was, but a certain what they call stage fright, I began to experience a little bit. And from then on, every time I did a play, it was not the same feeling that I used to have and nothing could bother me on stage, which I treasure those memories. It was a wonderful feeling.
What's interesting, we spoke the other day, I think, in Gray Quill, about how kids just, can just be themselves, and they never think about anything. And yet when I see you in Gray Quill, what I see is a free woman who just allows herself to be her, to be you.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
I'm grateful for that.
That's true, but
I guess
I've
kept the little girl in me.
Yes. Now, from there, you were doing summer stock, you were apprenticing, you were going to college, you got your BFA, but then did you go right away to Was it Syracuse?
No, I went to Ithaca College. I did spend one term, and you see, after 2 years of Ithaca College, I said, "Oh, gee, I don't know about college continuing. I'm going to go to New York." So I went to New York when New York was not ready for me. So I decided.
Well, wait a minute. Why were they not ready for you?
Oh, well, I was nothing. I could get nothing. I mean, when I walked into an agent's office, I would hope that he wasn't there because I had nothing to say.
You said you got $10 a week on summer stock.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a non-acting job? Were you a waitress?
Oh my
Were you
goodness, yes. I worked in Macy's at Christmas time. I demonstrated M&E industry musical toys. I played the tuba and the saxophone and the xylophone and the ukulele. I played all toys, and I was #1 demonstrator on the floor at Macy's. And I wore.
This is in Albany?
No, I was in New York City.
Oh, by then you were in-
Macy's in New York, yeah. And I was wearing a drum majorette costume with the little white boots, and oh my gosh, yeah, that was one of the things. Because there was this time, you see, when I quit Ithaca College, and I was in New York, and I didn't get any acting jobs. And I had not yet gone back. I'll tell you in a minute. I went back to college, but that's when I was working in a flower store, artificial flowers, making little corsages, and you could put your time in and get out at whenever you wanted to go on an audition. So that was a good job. I was a switchboard operator on a switchboard. I was a waitress. I did a lot of jobs like that.
Just to make money. Were any of them, wow, this is fun?
The toys.
That's what
because
I
I got to sing with the ukulele, and I was selling, you know.
Do you have a song for that one? I mean, we've only heard one song so
Oh,
far.
it ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How the heck am I gonna wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? That's what I played on the ukulele.
A pretty good acting teacher
Oh,
by the name of Lee Strasberg
yes.
said, and I want to quote it, now there is a face upon which things can be written.
Yes.
That was about you.
Yes.
Why do you think he said that?
He said that because it took me 2 years in his class to relax enough for my face to have something written on it.
So you were 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, but of course, I studied with him for on and off for 7 years in New York. Yes, I
Was
did.
he your first acting teacher in New York, or was there
No,
Herbert Berghoff you worked with?
I had studied with Morris Karnofsky, Herbert Berghoff, and then I went to Lee Strasberg, and I used to watch people come from Berghoff and from Stella Adler come into Lee Strasberg's acting class, and you know I could watch them flower in front of me because Lee would take each individual and give them notes of what they needed, and then they would bring the scene back, and then everything improved. He was a brilliant acting teacher, and I adored him.
Can you give me one piece of advice he gave you that helped you in your acting?
Well, one time I was doing a scene with George Siegel in class, and it was by the ocean, and he said, "George, you didn't see the ocean. Helen saw the whole ocean." So I thought to myself, so really, he can really perceive that I was working on. It was always a work in progress. So if you wanted to work on seeing the ocean, you could just work on that, and I did. And that's what he saw.
Wait, so he saw something you did great.
Yes.
And he acknowledged it.
Yes, he did.
And that made you feel good.
Yes, it did.
And it gave you the impetus to always go to that place where it's true. Where
Yes, I wanted to be true because I did a lot of summer stock, and I call it surface acting. I was
Right.
good and good timing, and I made people laugh and all that, but it wasn't until I got to Lee that I saw that I had an inner capacity. And then that beautiful moment when an audience is out there and you can feel that you got that audience right in your hand, and they're with you for what you are experiencing in the moment. And it's just beautiful, a beautiful feeling on stage when you can do that.
Can you remember a play you did
Yes.
after working with Strasberg that you just know, wow, man, I killed it?
Yes, and I know what it was. The most wonderful part in a play ever written was Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire. The president of Pierce College, where I did the play, said, never would I think that I could see anybody do Blanche Dubois better than Vivian Leigh. But he said, you were wonderful. So that was quite a compliment. I just
Did you you felt it with
I
Blanche?
felt that if Tennessee Williams would walk in the door, I would throw my arms around him and I would say, I know what you were trying to do. I know what you wanted to do with this woman, and I know her. And I just grateful that I got to play Blanche Dubois.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. You also took dance lessons from Jean Nelson?
Well, Jean Nelson I was going, working out in a gym called Total Woman, and Total Woman hired Jean Nelson to do some classes there. That's how I got that lucky.
And then you got to work with a tap dance teacher?
Oh, indeed, Tommy Sternfeld, and he was the teacher of Danny Daniels, the well-known tap dancer who was on Broadway. And that's when, as I told you, we danced, during the war for World War efforts and everything. Right. I didn't go on with that professionally, but I was a good tap dancer.
You also did modern dance.
Yes, well, that I had to go up the hill at Ithaca to Cornell University, which was up the hill, because that was Gertrude Atherton teaching up there, and I would take her class.
If you had it to do over again, is there something you would change from those years?
No. I had very happy years. I'm very fortunate. I had a happy childhood. I had a happy teenage. Well, the biggest thing in the high school thing, I was captain of the varsity cheerleaders, you see. And so...
Pom-pom girls or the actual cheerleaders?
Oh, the cheerleaders, yeah, right. Cha-hee, cha-ha, 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 whatever it was, I don't know. Anyway... So there we were, going on a bus sometimes to away games, and I kind of fell in love a little bit with a football player for a little while there.
Did he fall in love with you?
No, he was kind of cold, and I kept his picture in my wallet, and years later when I was visiting my mother in Albany, he came to see me and I said to myself, oh my goodness, it's a good thing I married the man I married because he didn't age too well.
So now tell me, when was it that you met Peter Mark Richman?
Peter Mark Richman, my beloved for 67 years of marriage. We met in Summer Theater in New Angola, Pennsylvania, which is near Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And he was leading man and I was leading woman. And we did a play a week and we did 14 plays that summer together.
You walk into the theater.
Oh.
And let's see, I'm going to play this today. And, I wonder who's going to be the leading man. And how did you actually meet him the first time?
Well, to tell you the truth, he was hired a week after we started because something happened to the first leading man, like he was fired.
Were you part of him being fired because you knew he wasn't doing very well? I
never would interfere with something like that. No, but I was ready to open the season, and I was the lead. I think the play was called Glad Tidings. And somebody said, did you meet the new actor? And I said, oh no, I didn't even know he was here. And so we were in the dining room where the actors were fed, and this vision walked in. He had a very thick neck because he was a football player, and he was very handsome. And right then and there, the reason that I literally fell in love with him is because a woman walked in with a baby, and this young man picked up a baby, and the way he looked and held and played with a baby, I never saw a gorgeous young man that interested in a baby.
And it wasn't his.
So my maternal instincts went, and I said, he is something else. So he saw me in the play that night. He rapped on my dressing room door, and he came in and he said very shyly, You were very good. I said, thank you. And the next thing we know, we took a walk on Lake Nuangola, and I said to him, oh, now I know who you remind me of. You remind me of my brother. And I was always told that it's a good thing if you meet the person who's right for you for all your life. It should feel like family, and it did.
Wow. And now I know Peter Mark's no longer with us, but what was Peter Mark's reaction? You probably remember. What would he say when he first saw you?
You mean you're Jewish? No, I mean, he did say that, but that wasn't the first thing. But he was so happy.
He was happy you were Jewish.
He was happy I was Jewish because that's how he grew up.
Right.
And then he didn't have an extra problem. You know, how are we going to raise the children or whatever? So you're Jewish. Okay, that's great. He admired me as an actress, and he was immediately attracted to me also. And we were, we were just meant for each other.
Beschert.
Beschert.
It was
were
beschert.
That's right.
So now, how long before you started to date, and how long before he asked you to marry him?
The dating in summer stock is that you take some more walks on Lake Nuangola, or you go to the local bar where there's a jukebox and you can start to dance a little together. And so that was like the dating. But when the season was over in Nuangola, we did decide that we were going to go to New York together, but we didn't live together right away. I had an apartment with a girlfriend, and he had a one room where he used to put his peanut butter on the shelf, and it would always fall down on West something Street.
You must have been in that apartment to know that it fell down.
Oh, yes. Well, we're certainly, we were together whenever we could be.
This is in the late 40s, early 50s?
Like around 1951 and 2.
Right.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think we were married in 1952. So an interesting thing happened while we were in these separate places, living in these separate places, is that I got a job in winter stock in Sarasota, Florida, and so I literally left him. In New York City, and there was no free cell phone calls. So boy, it was like a big deal if you got a phone call, But we wrote each other. My father was going to go and come down, and he said to Peter Mark, "Would you like to take a auto trip with me to Sarasota?" And because my father had met him already, Peter Mark didn't have a penny, but my father called him a prince, and he was a prince because he was just a marvelous person. So anyway, they came down, and it was in Sarasota, Florida, that we got engaged.
And how did he propose?
I
assume he'd already asked your dad.
Oh, the dad, yes.
Did he ask
No, the
your
dad asked
first?
him because when they visited, they were staying in a motel halfway there, and my father said, "I have in my pocket a ring that I reset that was my mother's, and if you are serious about my daughter, I would like you to give her this ring." "Oh, no, Sammy, I couldn't do that." No, just put it in your pocket, and now you do what you feel about it." So anyway, that was going to be the engagement ring, and he did use it in Sarasota.
All right, so tell me, what was it, at night, out by the lake? Tell me how he asked.
He had already asked me to marry him.
I know, but to actually give you the ring,
right before,
was there some kind of a ceremony or ritual?
He wanted to marry me. I was holding him up, and I said to myself, he's in New York, and he's going to these parties, and he just told me that he met Marlon Brando, and he's going to meet these people. I said, "You know what? You could lose him. You better tell him yes." So I did on the phone, and I said, "I have decided I will marry you." He said, "How do you know?" And I said, "I just feel it in my gut." So anyway.
But it was really because you were worried he might meet Marilyn Monroe.
He did meet Marilyn Monroe because she started to come to Lee Strasberg's class.
Oh, was Peter in Lee's class?
He was
also?
with her at the actor's studio when Marilyn Monroe was coming.
Right,
yes.
So he was at the actor's studio.
Yes,
also.
he became a member of the actor's studio, yes.
Right.
So anyway, with the ring, I don't remember when he put it on my finger. I was just so entranced with the story that my father gave him the ring.
And tell me about the wedding.
Oh, the wedding was in Albany. And I think that the rabbi was kind of entranced that he was suddenly doing actors because he started to recite a little of Romeo and Juliet during the ceremony.
And it was in a temple?
In Jack's Oyster House, and it was just a room. And then it was at the same place that we had it wasn't a big
The reception.
wedding. The reception, right. Yeah. Right, at the,
50 people, 100 people?
About maybe 60 people.
Right.
Were there.
Relatives, a lot of relatives.
Relatives and my parents' friends from Albany.
And where was Peter raised?
Oh, Philadelphia. And yes, his mom was still alive.
Right.
Yes, but not his dad. But his mom was still alive, and his brother was there. I loved his family. Oh my goodness, they were very expressive people, But
were they actors also?
No, they were not. My husband's brother was a pharmacist, and that is why my husband, Peter Mark Richman, is a licensed pharmacist, which is another reason I fell in love with him.
Because he could get you drugs.
Because he was smart.
Aside from acting, you also wanted to be a mom.
Oh, I just loved being a mother.
So had you discussed with Peter ahead of time that you wanted children and he wanted children also, obviously, because you told me...
we really didn't discuss that. But when we were touring together...
Something happened because obviously you had a
when we
child.
were touring together in Hatful of Rain, when we were in the National Company of Hatful of Rain, Gavin MacLeod, the captain of the Love Boat, who was, by the way, my college... boyfriend. But anyway, he was...
Wait a minute, Gavin MacLeod? You didn't talk about Gavin earlier.
Gavin, I love Gavin. We just loved each other as friends in Ithaca College.
And, so you didn't have a boyfriend?
No, I didn't.
So who was your first boyfriend?
Arthur Goldstein in Albany, New York, and because we used to put notes in the tree for each other when we were, I think, in kindergarten. He was my first boyfriend.
He was your first kiss, probably in first grade.
No, he never kissed me. We just put notes in, and we loved each other,
That's okay. We were talking about the wedding.
Yes, right.
Can you remember what song you wanted to dance to as your first song? I don't know why I'm asking this question.
No, I do. I'll see you again whenever spring breaks through again. Noel Coward song sung by, what's the British actress? I forget her name. Yeah, and for some reason, I know why it was our favorite song. Because we did that play in New Angola, a Noel Coward play. Whatever it was. Yeah.
So you got married. You guys were doing summer stock. You did all kinds of stuff. Did you both move to New York now and stay in one apartment?
We were engaged in Sarasota. Then we had the wedding and we got married. And when we got married, yes, we were looking for a room, where we're going to live. So
you had no money, or
no money.
Enough, yeah.
We found a room. I don't know, West 70 something, and it was just a room. The bathroom was in the hall. So it was a little inconvenient, but we were happy. And then we got our own apartment on the Bowery, which was Elizabeth Street, which was, I found out later that Martin Scorsese lived 2 doors away from me when he was about 12 years old. Yeah, on Elizabeth Street. And a very Italian neighborhood. And that's where we were until we moved to West 20th and 9th Avenue. And our last apartment in New York was West 84th Street, right near Central Park. By then I had 2 kids, and that's when we moved to California.
Did you consciously make a decision not to multitask, not to have children and act? Because that must have been someone who is as passionate about acting as you, and obviously passionate about having children. How did you make that decision, or you and Peter make that decision?
Well, Peter was always supportive. If I got a job out of town, even when we were married at the Playhouse in the Park in Cincinnati. And just go, that's fine. Anyway, he never stopped it. But when I had a first baby, Howard, and I saw
Great name.
Thank you. Oh, yes, of course, your father, Howard Koch. Okay, so anyway.
Wait a minute, but you had to get pregnant before you had the baby.
I guess I
I
did.
think.
I certainly did. Yes, I'm not that abnormal.
So I guess my question is, was there a discussion of, hey, if we get pregnant, what are you going to do if?
All I'm thinking about is my baby. I'm not going to go to Lee Strasberg's class anymore. And once I stopped going to Lee's class, nor did I really want to spend time auditioning and going away from the baby. And I realized I'm fulfilled. I have a baby. Of course, every once in a while I miss, of course, the theater and the stage and the acting. And that stayed with me. Oh, it stayed with me so that by the time all the kids left the house, I went back to the stage again. But it was a long, long period. And yes, I made the decision that I will not pursue an acting career and keep having children. And I ended up having 5 children.
Did you do any television or only plays before
Well,
you?
I was behind a camera that in a commercial that I got, which was I had to say, "I'm so skinny. I wish I could gain weight." Can you believe that? Everybody wants to, but I was so skinny. I got that commercial. No, let's see. Behind the camera. Oh yes, I was in one. Playhouse 90. I was the wife of Sterling Hayden, and it was directed by John Frankenheimer. John
Did he
Frankenheimer.
always used to do this?
Oh yeah. I knew you would know John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
I was pregnant, and she was a pregnant lady, his wife, and so Peter Mark was in playing
was in it
a
also.
gun shooter, and he said, "Well, I don't know if I can come." We were in New York, living in New York, and he said, "I don't know if I can make that trip. My wife is very pregnant." "Oh yeah, can she act?" "Yeah, she's an actress." "Okay, she's got the part." So that's how I got on Playhouse 90.
Wow. So now your first son was Howard.
My first son was Howard.
Who was number 2?
Yes, but I'll just quickly go that Howard is a wonderful piano teacher and composer and has done research on the effects of music on health. And he has a published book called Ease Chronic Pain, written with a music therapist. And he's a wonderful, wonderful composer and musician.
I know your husband used to speak of him. He was very, very proud of him.
Oh, how
Because Peter and I were on the board together.
Yes, I know he was on the board with you here at MPTF,
Right.
and he loved being on the board here.
Yes. Yeah.
So number 2 was my daughter Kelly Lester, who just last night sang at the Coachella Repertory Company in Palm Springs with her good friends Glenn Rosenblum and Susan Martin. And anyway,
What did they sing?
Broadway.
Broadway songs.
Yes, Broadway.
Was there a song? You weren't there last night, obviously.
No, I
'cause
wasn't there, but I can go on Instagram as soon as I get home, and I'm gonna. Kelly is gonna put all the stuff on Instagram. I'm gonna watch it.
Great. Your daughter just sang in
She did.
Palm Springs.
Yes, and before that, she played Fraulein Schneider in Cabaret at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego.
Wow.
And
Good
it was
for her.
we did the family all went down there, of course, to see her. And it was a wonderful production. Oh, and now her husband, Lauren Lester, is in the Broadway revival of Cabaret. He's playing 2 parts, Max and Herman, and understudying Herr Schultz. They're going to do the song Willkommen, and he's going to be in it.
Oh, on the Tonys.
Yeah, on the Tonys.
Should we sing it together? Welcome and bienvenue. Welcome
You sing
to.
it. I don't know that one. I know you know it better than I do.
So, in other words, you're so far, the first 2 children have that creative bent, and not only the first 2 children, but your daughter's husband is also.
Oh, you can't get into our family unless you're talented.
Can you be talented at hammering a nail into or being a doctor? That's not talent.
No, as long as I've said that, I must tell you that my firstborn, Howard, his wife, Cherie, is an opera singer.
Well, of course she is.
And vocal coach. So therefore, that is another talented in-law. You know, I have 3 daughters-in-law that I adore, and I think that they kind of love me. And isn't it wonderful to get along?
That's terrific.
So
All right,
anyway,
so now you got the first 2. Who's number 3?
Number 3 is Lucas Richman, and he is a orchestra conductor, a symphony orchestra conductor, a music director, conductor of the Bangor Maine Symphony. He has guest conducted the Philadelphia Orchestra, the LA Phil, the New York Philharmonic, the LA Chamber Music, all kinds of orchestras.
Wow.
He is a composer. He has composed a symphony, a concerto, all kinds of wonderful music. He was before this, he was for 10 years the conductor of the Knoxville Symphony in Knoxville.
Wow.
Yes.
Now you got 3 kids. Number 4.
No, wait, excuse me. Lucas's beginnings started that he was going to be a violinist, and he majored in violin, and then he graduated UCLA, and then he got a scholarship for conducting at USC. But through all this, before he was out of high school, he was at Tanglewood. And he was in the program as a violinist, and then he said to me, "Mom, I want to go back into the program at Tanglewood as a conductor." And I said, "Lucas, you have to know every instrument in an orchestra to be a conductor." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm researching that." So the next thing I know, he gets in, and I have a 45-minute tape of Leonard Bernstein, who was running the program, giving my son Lucas a master class in Brahms' Academic Festival Overture. And a few years later, Bernstein took Lucas as one of the of the few conductors from all over the country to go with him to the Schleswig-Holstein Music Festival in Germany. And he said, "I'm going to take 3 of you on with me to Moscow and London." And Lucas was one of them.
Wow.
And we have the recording of the British announcer saying in London at Royal Albert Hall, "And now the American conductor is approaching the podium, Lucas Richman." And he opened with Brahms' Academic Festival Overture for Bernstein, and Bernstein sat himself in the orchestra so he could watch his protege conduct.
Wow. Were you there?
Oh, no, we weren't there, but we have it. We have it.
Man, you're not too proud of that, are you?
No, I don't know what to tell you. And that summer he met John Williams and Aaron Copland and all kinds of people at Tanglewood. We have pictures of it all. Anyway, so to go on number 4 is Orion. And Orion should read your book because he is a movie producer. And he did produce one movie already called So Be It, based on a bestseller children's book, So Be It. Mm-hmm. It is with Alfred Woodard and Cloris Leachman and a couple of others, and it's a beautiful movie. And so he's married to a very, very talented Alave Lowe, who is one of the producers of recently.
Is she Hungarian?
No, she's not Hungarian. Oh. My son Howard's opera singer is Hungarian.
I see.
Over there.
I see.
Yeah.
I felt Hungarian. I felt Hungary in the room.
Well, strangely, what she is she's from Australia, and she's half Australian and half Chinese. And her name is Alave Lowe, and she is part of Zero Gravity production agency, and she finds wonderful scripts. And she and my son, my number 4 child, Orion Richman, are developing many, many wonderful projects together in the hopes of making more movies.
And good luck to them. I hope they do.
I know. I hope they do too.
When you were pregnant with number 5, did you and Peter look at each other and go, "Oh my God, again"?
No,
how many did you want? 8 or something?
No, we wanted number 5, but after number 5, we said there will be no more.
Okay.
That was it. But we want.
So who was number 5?
That is Roger, and Roger is although he still takes acting lessons and he records things and he loves acting, but his job is he travels the whole country to different Costco's demonstrating nonstick cookware.
That's kind of like what you did
What I did at Macy's. Yes.
So it's still in the
It's in the
family.
blood.
It's
Yeah,
still
yeah, it's in the family. Yeah.
okay. All right. So let's talk about now your grandchildren.
Okay, very quickly. So I have number one is Jenny Lester, who is a graduate of Point Park University.
This is Howard's daughter.
And this is my daughter's daughter, but I'm going by who's born first.
Born first.
Yeah.
Got
So
it, got it.
okay. So Kelly's daughter, oldest daughter, is Jenny Lester. She graduated Point Park University in Pittsburgh. She got her bachelor's, and then she's getting her master's right now in London at Royal Central Drama School in classical acting. And so that's what she's doing. And she is a movie producer and already has a movie out called What She Said. Okay, that's Jenny. And then the middle one, Lily, she, you know, when you're a stand-up comic and you're in New York City and you play the little dives and you develop your gig, and that's what she is. And
she's doing her gigs right now.
Yeah, but she's an NYU musical theater major graduate and sings and acts and is very, very talented.
What a family.
And then Julia Lester, last year, this is so appropriate right now because this Sunday is the Tony Awards, it went into the revival of Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods, and played Little Red Riding Hood. She made her Broadway debut, and for that she received a Tony nomination.
Fantastic.
She didn't go with the company to go on tour because she had to go here to the Amundsen to go into the production of The Secret Garden. And then after that, she went into New York, off-Broadway, to the revival of I Can Get It For You Wholesale, and played the part that started the career of Barbra Streisand, which was Miss Marmalstein.
I know. I spoke with Elliot Gould yesterday.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that. That's a coincidence.
There you go.
Yes. And
he was in I Can Get It For You Wholesale, for those who may not have known.
Oh, okay. Yes.
With Barbra Streisand.
And he was married to her.
And he was married to
Yes,
Barbra.
of course.
Yes.
Yes, nice man, Elliot. Yes, very nice man. And she is right now the lead in a movie streaming on Hulu called Prom Dates.
Is that a horror film?
No, it's a rom-com.
Oh, a rom-com.
And a teenage rom-com.
Ah, okay.
Howard, my oldest son, has his son Oliver Richman, over 5 million views on the internet, whatever that people tune in. TikTok thing, because he's when January 1st, 24 happened, he said, I'm going to write a song a day. So when Groundhog Day happened, he wrote a song, and even Mandy Patinkin is following him. He got 5 million views on this one song, and now all these people, and they do duets together. People get on with him, you know, and whatever. And it's just everybody, all the young people now know Oliver Richman. He's a songwriter. Oh, yeah, he just did lyrics and music for, presented it off Broadway called The Fake Husband, and he just produced that and was musical director.
Wow.
Yeah, so I know. And then, believe it or not, Howard and Cherie have a daughter named Danica. She is a beautiful dancer. Dancing is her passion at the age of 12, and she just won the Southern California region.
Of course she did.
Of
She's
course
your
she did.
granddaughter.
First place in the solo of her age group. She just won that. Okay, so that's Howard's kids. That's Kelly's kids. Lucas has a son, Max, and Max can write music, sing music, play the guitar, and speak Chinese. Because his father conducted in China, took Max with him, and while he was there, he learned Mandarin.
Fantastic. So now tell me, you had 2 kids, you're living in New York. I'm assuming that Peter is doing well as an actor in order to pay and afford 2 children, or not?
Yes, he started with live television in New York. And because he studied with Lee Strasberg, and he was learning, he feels that the first job he got was all Strasberg, because he learned to really, he had a scene on television where he was talking to an elderly woman, and he really said to himself, I see the lines, on her face. I wonder what her eyes have seen in her life. I am playing the absolute moment and really bringing in what I see. And this was all from just starting with Strasberg. And from then on, he was getting parts on television.
Why did you decide to move to Los Angeles?
Well, the first trip to Los Angeles that ever took us out there is because my husband got a William Wyler movie called Friendly Persuasion with Gary Cooper and Dorothy McGuire.
Very famous movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a classic.
Yes.
Love that movie about the Quakers. And the woman who wrote the book, Friendly Persuasion, Jessamine West, became a very close friend of mine, and I loved her. She was a Quaker lady, and of course it was about the Quakers, you know. And Peter Mark was like the person who fell in love with Gary Cooper's daughter, and that was my very close friend who was my roommate in Malden Bridge, New York Stock Company, Phyllis Love. And they knew each other already, and they screen tested together, and they both got the part, you know. And so anyway, that was our first trip to LA, and we kept our apartment in New York. What brought us permanently and to give up the New York apartment and say we now live in it is because he got his own series in the late 50s called Kane's 100, Cain apostrophe S, Kane's 100. He was the one and only star. His picture was on the cover of TV Guide at that point. Yes, and because he's going to be a star of a television series, I mean, we simply had to move. And that's when we moved to California.
And where did you live when you first got there?
We had a rented house in Pacific Palisades, and believe me, I kept telling my two children, who I brought out with me at such a young age, all you're going to do is open a door and you have a garden to walk out onto. You know, I'm talking about what the difference between an apartment and an elevator, you know. And they said, really? And so I was all excited, and we loved a beautiful house on Will Rogers State Park Road. There weren't any more houses there, just this one house. And we loved it, and we were very lucky.
You took him to the beach, I'm sure, all the time.
Well, no, he was really busy.
No, I'm talking, but you took your kids,
No,
no?
I didn't drive. I had to learn how to drive here because I was always a New Yorker. I never had a car.
Wait a minute. Didn't you tell me your father was
well,
driving?
yeah, but I wasn't born when he was a driver.
Well, but he still could probably teach you at some point.
Yes, he could.
I mean, how ironic is that?
No,
that you
in those days, you know, everyone on Hollywood Avenue was a one-car house. The man went to work, and he took the car, and the ladies took the bus wherever they wanted to go.
Got it.
No,
okay, so you came out here, you learned how to drive.
Yeah, I learned how to drive finally.
Because in L.A., you have to know how to drive.
If you don't drive, you know, how you're going to get there.
And I'm assuming, being the leading man of a television series, you were able to have two cars?
We did have two cars. Okay, so then I finally did learn how to drive.
So, now, where was Peter shooting? If you were in the Palisades, where was the
at
Review?
MGM?
At MGM?
Yeah, MGM.
Culver City?
Yeah, that's where he was shooting.
Okay, so he didn't have to go all the way to the valley?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the Palisades, did you end up finally buying a home?
Oh, yes, of course. And everybody over there said, "You're going over the hill?" Yes, we're going over the hill because that's all we can afford to buy, a house over the hill. And so we found a place in Woodland Hills.
Ah.
And we had right up above Taft High School. And I had 5 kids who graduated Taft High, and they all, for a little while, before they could drive and everything, they walked to school, which is very
that close.
Really unusual. Yes.
Right.
You know, they all were in the choir. Or the older 3, they were also musical. And we would always have music in our living room with Lucas on the violin and Howard on the piano, and Kelly was singing. And they brought the choir kids up to my living room, and they all sang there. And oh, it was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nice.
I'm sorry I didn't get to be there. I'm really serious. That would have
you want to be one of my kids?
Yeah, I wish I was. I had no musical training.
Oh.
No. But I did go. But I did go see Damn Yankees at the Biltmore in 1952 or something.
You did?
And I saw Annie Get Your Gun 8 times and knew every word
of
those
wow.
songs. Yeah. I can do anything better than you.
I can do anything better than you
No, you
can.
can't. No, you
can
can't.
do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. So, Helen, you have 5 kids. The youngest is how old when you go, Peter Mark, I'm ready to go back to acting?
Well, they were all out like either high school age or a
Oh, wow.
college.
They had really.
Oh yeah, they're
You
gone.
stayed all the way until
All the
empty
way.
nest.
Yes, because there's a lot to take care of. Well, I joined the Richard Basehart Playhouse, which was in a theater in Woodland Hills, and I did the Lady of Larkspur Lotion, a Tennessee Williams one-act play there. But what an interesting thing that I did there is I started directing a little bit. Yes, and
I was going to get to that,
Oh
but
yes,
good.
Joe Stefano, who wrote the screenplay for Psycho, he and his wife Marilyn became our very dear friends, and he had a play that he never even heard read, sitting in a drawer. So Joe Stefano has a play. So I say, may I read it? And I did, and it was just charming. And it was called A Laughter and the Early 30s, name of it. And I got together a wonderful cast, including myself and my husband and a couple of the other people from the Richard Basehart Playhouse. And we did a staged reading. And I have a letter from Joe that I treasure where he just was so thrilled to hear his play read. And I
Great.
felt, gee, I did something good here. I directed a play reading.
So then you decided to direct your husband.
Well, he decided because Peter Mark was working. He was working it up at the Actors Studio. His one-man play called Four Faces, a brilliant piece of writing.
Did he write it?
Oh yes, he wrote a one-man stage play. It was started at Chapman University, then it went to the Even Court Theater, and then it went to the Odyssey until finally Ted Post came in as a film director, and Peter Mark wrote the screenplay, and it is now a film.
Wow.
In which I play one of the ladies in an Al-Anon meeting who cries. I can cry very easily, very quickly. If you want a lady who cries, you can hire me. Anyway.
I can cry if there's an American Express commercial. That's for me. So I'm maybe not as good. Today would be a great day for me to cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lost my dog of 15 years yesterday.
Oh,
we had to
dear, now I'm going to cry for you.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And I know what that means.
Are you in the pool here at the MPTF?
I know I don't swim here. They closed the locker room. They made it a little bit inconvenient to swim for me.
Got it. And what about the gym?
But I know I have it. I'm gonna go soon. But I have been getting, since my last spinal surgery, which happened on January 2nd. I have been doing PT, and it's so wonderful to have on campus the PT office. And it is now called Synergy, and they're good. They're very good.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how long have you been at MPTF?
About 3 years.
And are you happy here?
You know, when my husband was on the board and I used to come here for functions, I would watch somebody walk into their cottage and I would say to myself, when I'm 90, I want to walk into my cottage. And I really want to be here. I just love this place. And so when I got to be 90, I moved in here. And do I love it? I am one of the lucky people because I am a resident here. And the way they treat the residents, and they have such respect for the residents, and the special things they try to do to keep us creative and alive and happy, because we're old. And, we're kind of achy and whatever our problems are. I had 2 spinal surgeries, and that certainly changed me. I didn't used to use a walker. Now I do. But, you can rise above it here because there's always, look what I'm doing right now. I mean, Hawk Koch is interviewing me. Gosh, it's wonderful. I love it here.
Tell me about, I read in your husband's book about his spirituality.
Oh, yes. Well,
and I'm sure that you were a big part of that.
We were introduced in New York City by a British physicist, was lecturing at the French Institute in New York on a group called Subud, S-U-B-U-D. And Phyllis Love, the one who appeared in Friendly Persuasion with my husband, called me and said, "Do you want to go hear this lecture?" And I said, yes. And that was a very, very important yes in my life, because Mr. Bennett talked about a direct contact with the power of God, and how you can then become the master of your own inner and not be persuaded by lower forces that drive you into other areas, material forces and animal forces and vegetable forces, and that can take control. But you can be the master of your own inner if you are connected to this to God. I mean, you can call it what you want to, a higher power, God, something above the universe, whatever, but it's God. So even when we went to Israel, it's called Latihan, Latihan, which is the word for the worship that we do, which is just completely submitting yourself to this power that you have been given by being opened in Subud. And it's very simple, and there's no preaching, and it's not a religion, and you can keep your own religion, and it's for all. I mean, I can do a Latihan with Muslims and Christians and Jews and Buddhists and everybody, because we are all brothers, and we all are from God, and we're all connected, and that's how I feel, and that's a very important part of my life.
For all those who remember my introduction, it was this amazing woman, and that's who you are. Tell me, what we didn't talk about is your writing, because I get to be in the Gray Quill Society. Tell me when you decided, or did you always write? Because your writing and your speaking at the Gray Quill is really special.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm also very pleased that some people ask me to read their work, especially, we have our darling Deborah Rogerson, who's blind, and she obviously can't read her own work. She just called me this morning, and she said, "I'm going to be sending you for next Quill my script." I said, "Just send it along. I'll read it for you, Deborah." Yes, well, I did write as a child. I have a little booklet where my poems are. When I must have been 10.
And you were writing poetry.
Yes, and I remember the title, "Hitler is a Bad Man." Yeah.
Well, see, now you knew about that.
Yeah, so, okay, but I didn't know what they were doing to the Jews. I knew there was a war. I knew Hitler was in charge, but I didn't know the rest of it.
Right.
I did know that. The Gray Quill puts out a book every year, that.
Right.
And so in one of the books where I've got 5 pieces in.
Only 5?
Well, each one of us only. No favoritism. It's a certain amount for each person. Yeah. I have a piece that I wrote when I was a switchboard operator in New York.
Can you remember? Oh, it's
it's a piece. Yeah, it's a stream of conscious thinking, and I found it. And when I gave it to our leader, who's called Victoria. She was she leads us with our Gray Quill meetings, and so she said, "Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. We'll put it in the book. It's in the book."
So I'm going to ask you a question now.
Yes.
Because I know you know plays.
Yeah.
And you were a telephone operator.
I was.
Who in a play on Broadway said, "Sue's answer phone"? Sue's answer phone.
Sue's answer phone.
Oh,
Is that?
I got you.
No, I don't know.
Judy Holliday in
Born Yesterday. No.
Bells Are Ringing.
Oh, Bells Are Ringing.
Sorry, I don't know. I just remember Sue's answer phone. She was a telephone operator.
Oh yeah. That's what I did. That kind of thing. Oh boy, those were the days.
Do you have a favorite play, a favorite movie, and a favorite television show? Because we generally ask those, if you remember, on my interview shows for Inside Hollywood. So I want for Silver Screen, I want to know favorite play, favorite movie, favorite television show.
Favorite movie, Brief Encounter.
Okay. Why?
Because this woman is married, and we never saw that she was unhappily married, and she seems at the end to be like it's going to be a contentment, but she finds someone that she's powerless to not be with. And she is like, has to go through this period of falling in love with someone. And it's painful because she
loves her husband, but she's really in
yes,
love with.
Yes. And the acting is brilliant.
Yes.
And that's why I like that movie.
Okay. Play.
And play A Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando and Jessica.
Jessica Tandy.
Yeah, Jessica Tandy and Kim Hunter and Marlon Brando.
Right. And television.
Oh, All in the Family.
Right.
I love Archie Bunker.
Well, you love the show.
I love
Yes.
the show. But I
Yes.
mean, that was funny.
Yeah.
And wonderful acting, every one of them.
Helen, this has been one of the best hour and a halves I've ever spent. I really mean that. You're just such a wonderful lady, and I'm so thrilled to be doing this with you, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I have, and please keep coming to Great Quill
Okay.
and reading from your book.
Thank you, Helen. And thank you for joining us behind the silver screen. Can't wait to do another one of these. I hope you enjoy it.